You've been praying, you've been giving yourself grace, you've been trying to do better. But if you're honest, you're still stuck in the same place you were 6 months ago. Same relationship patterns, same financial stress, the same version of yourself that you've been asking God to change. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you might have this question: why isn't anything changing? I want you to stay with me because what I have to say might be a little uncomfortable, might be a little kick in the pants. The problem might not be that God isn't giving you enough grace. The problem might be that you don't actually understand what grace really is. Because if grace just means feel better about where you are, you're going to stay there forever. But if grace means what the Bible actually teaches, that is the power that you've been craving and asking God for. And it's already yours. I don't believe that your lack of understanding of the grace of God is a you problem. I feel like this is something that is ingrained in us, from the time we are young. Like this therapy, self-help sort of positive talk has been like intertwined and mixed with the things of God, so much so where we've changed and shifted our definition and we've been living from a false reality ever since. Now, please do not hear me say that I don't like therapy, I don't like self-help. That is not the case. I believe that it has value, it holds truth, and there's nothing wrong with understanding your emotions or even some of the triggers behind it. The problem is those things are getting carried over into our faith. So in Christianese, as they say, give yourself grace as a Christian is really just saying the same thing as be kind to yourself and let yourself off the hook. It sounds good. It sounds like the opposite of self-criticism, right? But then you're doing all the things and then you have nothing to show for it. So when you find yourself in a tough spot in life, right? Maybe you have financial stress or, a tumultuous relationship or whatever the case is. And someone says, "Oh, just give yourself grace. It's okay. Like, it's all right." You gladly going to take that grace card because it makes you feel better. But the grace of God is not designed to let you off of the hook of anything. Feeling better about where you are in life is not the same thing as actually moving to the place where you want to be in life, because the situation that is staying the same is actually the thing that needs to change. So let's talk about the biblical definition of the grace of God. One of my favorite verses, actually, this is my husband's favorite verse that he done preached to me about 50 million times. So I'm going to preach it to you. If I got to hear it, you got to hear it too. It's Titus chapter 2, verse 11. It says, "For the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation to all people." Verse 12, it says, "Training us to renounce ungodliness and worldly passions and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives." God's grace gives us the power and trains us in the ability to be able to have self-control, to live godly and upright lives. It is his ability to do things that we cannot do in our own strength. So I want to give you an example. Let's make this thing practical, right? You are a woman who, you love your kids, you want to be present with them, but there's something within you that has made it difficult. Maybe there's childhood trauma, or you're feeling very insecure about who you are as a person, or you feel like they're not going to like you, or whatever the case is, right? You're feeling insecure. Maybe you've tried to open up a little bit and you've gotten hurt. So you shut down. And so you tell yourself, like, this isn't going to work. I'm not going to, try this again. Right. And life is hard. The kids be tripping, and it is extremely challenging to open up again. And so you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to give myself grace. I know that I've had all this childhood trauma. It's been so difficult for me. I just got to give myself grace in the situation. God's going to make it better. And then tomorrow comes and it's the same old story. Here's the question. What if the grace that you're giving yourself is actually the thing that's keeping you from where you are and becoming the mother that you keep asking God to be? Real grace does not say, "Oh, I'm just tired. It's so hard. I've just had all this trauma." Real grace says, "I know you're tired. I know you might be embarrassed or you might feel, awkward, but yet you're going to do it anyway." Real grace will shift your heart so that it feels more like a calling than it does a burden. Philippians chapter 2, verse 13 says, "For it is God who works in you, both to will and to work for his good pleasure." God's grace doesn't just give you the ability to act differently. It gives you the desire to act differently. You don't actually have to manufacture, this type of motivation from within yourself or from anywhere else. It comes from God. It says that it is the Lord. It is God who works in you, both to will and to work for his good pleasure. Now, Let me tell you something. This does not work on autopilot. It requires two things from you: submission and faith. Number one, submission. With submission, we have to stop negotiating everything with God and actually bring the things that we are struggling with to Him and surrender it to Him. And then with faith, it requires an understanding that, hey, it is not me, it is not my own strength. It is the Lord. I have to trust Him. I have to trust Him to change me. I have to trust His power, not my own. We have to believe that it is the Lord who has begun a good work in us and that He is going to fulfill it within us, even if you can't tell or you can't feel that it's happening. The beautiful thing is you don't have to fix yourself. You don't have to be perfect. That was never the assignment. The assignment is to stop using grace as an excuse to just feel better about where you are in your life. We have to start using it as a reason to trust the Lord and allow Him to push us and to move us. That true grace has always been available to us. You just have to stop settling for the counterfeit. So let's make this real. I don't want you to feel convicted but then not know what to do, because that would just be another form of staying stuck. And I don't want you to stay stuck. The question I want you to ask yourself is, where have I been using God's grace as an excuse or a crutch to stay stuck with where I am? I don't want a generality here. I need something specific. Is it the relationship that you keep saying you're going to address? Is it the habit that you keep going back to that you said you were going to give up? Is it the thing that God is pushing you towards, but you keep putting it off? I want you to sit with that and I want you to write it down, not as a form, of shame or condemnation, but so that you have something to physically look at that you can take into your prayer time. And this is the prayer that I want you to pray. You say, God, I want to tell you that this is an area of my life where I was leaning on a false sense of grace, and I'm submitting this thing to you now. And say, I surrender this to you. And I'm trusting that you are going to train me and you are going to give me the power to truly overcome this struggle. And I know I don't have everything figured out. I know I'm not going to do everything perfectly, but nevertheless, I still trust you. If this is resonating with you and you really want to go deeper on releasing things that you are stuck in or the shame that you feel, I wrote a book called Hiding is Overrated. And there we go a lot deeper on this topic. We talk about identifying shame, identifying the lies that you're believing, and how to release them with the truth of God and how to truly find God's grace. So if that's interesting to you, I'm going to put it all in the description and in the pinned comment below. So you came into this video because something wasn't working. You were praying, you're trying, and it seems like, you're just spinning your wheels. And I want you to know that that frustration is not a sign that you're broken or that God was absent. It's actually a sign that your perspective needs to shift. I want you to receive that, submit to it, and watch what God does with your heart when it's finally open to being moved, because hiding is overrated.